A recent United Nations report shows that child labor is on the rise worldwide. Between 2016 and 2020, the number of working children increased for the first time in 20 years, reaching 160 million. In Africa, more than 1 in 5 kids work. Debora Patta went to Ghana and saw kids working in the fishing industry under horrifying conditions.
The beauty of Lake Volta is deceptive. These are troubled waters. Thousands of children are fishing here. Some work in the family business. Many have been sold into modern-day slavery. Godwin labored on this lake for 5 years. Orphaned at 10, he was entrusted into the care of a man who promised to send him to school.
I didn't know that I was going to fish.
And at first, he didn't know how to swim.
Inside the water, the certain place is deep. Maybe that
Very
place
deep.
Yeah, deep. So I'm afraid to go down.
If he refused, he was beaten.
I was afraid. I was thinking, I don't know where my life will end that time. So I was there and I said, let me run away.
Eventually, he did escape, saved by Wallace, who works undercover and has rescued over 150 children for an international charity. We went out on the lake to see for ourselves. Rickety vessels filled with kids, adept at unraveling the fine mesh, and when those nets snag on submerged tree branches, they're forced to dive deep into the murky waters to untangle them. Adult work made easier by exploiting agile bodies and tiny hands. The eldest here claims the 9-year-old boy on this boat is his brother.
How come the two brothers don't speak the same language?
That's what I'm telling you, that's something, the language barrier. You see?
Something odd.
Yeah.
It's a red flag. Another little boy, believe it or not, called Freedom.
Freedom? Where's your mum?
He too is from far away and speaks a completely different language to the others on the boat.
Within the space of half an hour, we've already come across 4 boats in which there could be potential trafficking.
Yes.
Do you see this often?
Yeah, we see this often. So, but when we see that, we come back to do our underground investigation.
Wallace gathers intel from sources in Freedom's village. Weeks later, he confirms the child had been trafficked, but it was too late to rescue him. He'd been moved, a tactic slave owners use to evade arrest.
During this entire time, we haven't seen a single official from either the police or the Navy who is supposed to be patrolling this water.
And so, children are easy prey.
Why do you think there is so much trafficking in this area?
It's due to poverty.
And poverty is all around us here, desperate, extreme, persistent. It's not just boys who are trafficked. These sisters were snatched near their family home, only recently rescued. Their eyes tell of horrors they could not speak out loud. Warnings of trafficking abound, but they're not a deterrent, as we found out from this slave owner turned informant.
How much did you pay for a child?
500 Ghana cedis.
That's about $80.
But it's a human life. You bought a child. Is that not slavery?
That's how it is, he shrugs. Over 25 years, he's bought thousands of children.
What's the worst thing you ever did as a slave owner?
Forcing a kid who doesn't know how to swim to dive to the bottom of the lake, he told us. They could go down and never come up. So many children have died here. But there is another dreadful truth to hear.
You were sold into slavery?
By my father, he tells us. The child slave has become the master. Godwin refuses to go that route.
I wanted to go to school so that I become someone in the future. I didn't want to do fishing work.
He harbors no bitterness towards his abuser.
He has to be punished, but I forgive him.
How are you able to forgive him, Godwin? Such a hard time.
The unearned forgiveness of a boy whose childhood was stolen on this lake. Maybe this time the cycle has been broken.
And Debora joins us now to dig deeper into this issue of child labor. Debora, as always, I mean, you and I were speaking last week via email, and you continue to do these compelling stories from the continent, which we're so appreciative of. And one of the things that you mentioned in the piece is that one of the reasons for child slavery is, of course, poverty. Help our audience understand that.
Well, Vlad, I mean, there is no doubt that child slavery exists because of systemic poverty. And it's got an awful cyclical nature to it. It repeats over time. And as you saw in our report, we interviewed a child trafficker, essentially a slave owner. That man was himself a slave, trafficked by his father when he was very young. It's the only business he knows. And so that is what he continues to do on the lake. He told us that he was buying around 20 children every month and selling them on to other fishermen over a period of 25 years. Now, it may not have been exactly that number, but it's clear that during his lifetime, he's trafficked a lot of children and now admits that what he's done, he's ashamed of it. He's ashamed of the treatment of these children, saying they should have been in school. And then again, many parents do sell their children, parents, into slavery. But there are some who argue this is not slavery. It's because the parents cannot feed and support their children or send them to school. So it's the only way they can help the child survive, by entrusting them into the care of, say, either an extended family member or someone who essentially gives the child a type of apprenticeship. There are Ghanaian academics, in fact, who have studied this issue, and they vehemently say that the money parents pay for this supposed apprenticeship is not trafficking money, but remuneration for the fact that the fishermen will teach the child a skill, fishing. Now, obviously, no parent wants to willingly sell their child. They're poor, as we've said. They can't feed or send them to school. So they're doing the best they can. But I have to emphasize that despite all of these conditions that support this problem, in our reporting on the issue, not a single child personally received remuneration for the work that was done. They were not cared for, they did not go to school, and in many instances were horrifically abused, starved, beaten, and eventually they escaped the torment by running away. One young child, Noah, was actually sold by his father to repay a debt. A terrible story. Noah's mother died. The father needed the money for the funeral, so he sold Noah to cover that cost. He was supposed to work for 15 years to pay off that debt, but he ran again because he was being beaten and starving. So, in my opinion, that constitutes slavery. And the child needs to be put front and center of this story, no matter what the conditions. These children, the ones we spoke to, are saying they don't want to fish. They want to go to school. They want, in the words of Godwin, the young boy featured in our story, to become someone. Or as Noah told us, he dreams of becoming a doctor. They have dreams, they have hopes, and these dreams do not include becoming a fisherman. They don't want to swim underwater and risk drowning, and they don't want to repeat the cycle of poverty and become slave owners themselves, Vlad.
Yeah, when you said, an internship, and of course, sometimes you try to put yourself in someone else's position. You don't want to come with kind of your Western values and perspective and say, why would you do that to your child? You can understand why people would take desperate steps to escape poverty. But this is not an internship, as you point out. That for many of these children, this is a period of abuse. Internships don't force you to risk your lives, and sort of when you can't swim. And so there are a couple of things that I noticed in that story. And you point out one thing, that you didn't see any law enforcement. I also didn't see any actual adults either. So I'm sort of curious, were there adults sort of standing by around these children, making sure that they, continue to work? And what of law enforcement? Is this even a problem that they're interested in tackling?
It's a good question, Anne-Marie. Sometimes there are adults. Sometimes these may actually be the parents of the children themselves. But often it's older children who are probably trafficked themselves who are supervising the younger children. As I said in the report, we did not see a single law enforcement officer on the lake. In fact, in some instances, the police were actually quite active in stopping us even going out on the water. The Navy is supposed to patrol that area. This doesn't seem to happen much. We didn't see it. There is an anti anti-trafficking unit, but we saw no evidence of this either. And for the record, we asked the government ministry that's in charge of what's known as gender, children and social issues to comment on our story and to respond to our questions. And we even sent a personal message to the minister in charge on their mobile phone, and we received no response, not even an acknowledgement of our request or our questions. So I think the problem is often left up to non-governmental organizations. If they ask the police to accompany them to rescue a child, they will absolutely do this, but it doesn't appear as if they're proactive. There are a number of NGOs who are working in the area with different methods of dealing with this issue. Sometimes they actually assist in overcoming poverty, like the Mercy Project, which works with the villagers to get the children voluntarily released and set up projects to assist them economically. In other instances, you have NGOs that rescue the children and put them into the care of foster homes, or even reunite them with the parents. But sometimes the parents are angry and want to send them back, or they want the money back for, what they've spent supposedly on selling this child. So it's a very complex problem, but one that there doesn't seem to be a proactive response to.
Yeah, and Deborah, one thing that that it's important to point out, I think people oftentimes when they think of slavery, they think of colonial slavery, right? They think of people in chains and people forced to work under the threat of the lash or worse, without realizing that the conditions that you're describing there and the children that you've spoken to, that is exactly what modern day slavery looks like. And just because an outsider or even someone in Ghana or even the children themselves don't realize that they've been trafficked and then they are enslaved, doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. And the question becomes, while you were out there on the lake and talking to officials, there's always a larger system at play. Something like this can't happen in a vacuum. It's not as if police or government officials are not aware of these things, even if they may say that they're not. So what was your impression just seeing it with your own eyes?
No, it's an interesting question that you asked, Vlad. We've done other stories on child labor. For example, child labor on cobalt mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And there was a measure of fear of the authority there. It's illegal there to use child labor, as it is in Ghana, I should point out. But their police periodically make an appearance and children hide, or the people in charge of them hide them. Here, it was in plain sight. There was no attempt to hide anything. Now, some of these children may have been working for their parents. That is, they're not slaves, not trafficked. They might go to school. Others may not be abused. But we saw many instances, as I detailed in our report and chatting to you earlier, that this was a problem, that it's almost as if a communal blind eye has been turned towards the problem, possibly because of the reasons I've outlined already. The community is complicit in perpetuating the social issue, and poverty is at the center of it. And those who are critical of, say, Western journalists reporting on this, saying care needs to be given not to fall into stereotypes, fair enough. Those are important issues to bear in mind. But we carefully corroborated the stories of the children. And everyone we spoke to was an example of trafficking. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be on that lake, and they belong in school.
Debora, once again, fantastic story. I can't tell you how many people I told about your clothing story, and now this one is another one I'm going to be sharing and encouraging people to watch. Thank you so much.